Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. When your faith is strong, the cold does not matter to you, as the Empire faces off against the Beastmen today, with Consul of Rome commanding the forces of Sigmar, and the Beastmen will be led by not a streamer. So for the Empire forces, we do have quite the front line of flagellants. So we have 4 flagellants. They will be flanked by some spears with shields on both sides. We do have another set of spears behind that front line. But in the rear is the Sunmaker Hellstorm Rocket Battery ROR, and they will be supported by 1 more unit of spears just to prevent anything from getting a nice easy charge on them. We do have triple pistoliers out in the front as well to help kind of skirmish down the approaching Beastmen horde. And they do have some Empire Knights as well to help punish anything that gets a little too close. And in the forest, we do have 1 more unit of Empire Knights that is about to be jumped up upon very quickly. For the leadership department, we do have a Celestial Wizard, not a common lord or hero choice that you'll be seeing, but he is going to be bringing the wind spell as well as Curse of the Midnight Wind, giving minus 30 armor and melee attack. Now, minus 30 armor not going to be as useful here against the Beastmen. They do have very low armor anyways. We do have Boris Tidebringer up in the sky on his Griffin. He is going to be bringing the Middling Runefang. He has the White Cloak of Ulrich, as well as Crush the Weak. So a bit of debuffs in an AoE around him, and of course that regen is always very, very helpful. And then on the ground, we do have a Warrior Priest assisting that front line, who's going to be bringing the Hammer of Sigmar, Soulfire, and the Shield of Faith. And that's going to wrap things up for the Empire. Now for the Beastmen on both flanks, we do have some Chaos Warhounds with Poison and some Senegors. On the Beastmen right flank, they've already jumped up upon these Empire Knights hiding in the trees. Going to be doing some good work there, especially with those Warhounds on top of it. For that front line, we do have a Vanguarded Ungor herd across that front line, and they will have some Ungor Spearman herds as well, and a bunch of Ungor raiders. Already some of them wavering under the onslaught of that Sunstorm, the Sunmaker Hellstorm rocket battery, and is going to wrap things up for the front line. Now for the back line that are unable to Vanguard, we do have a Cygor who's going to be throwing things from downtown without any cannons to really shut him down, or any Outriders or Pistoliers in the immediate vicinity. He should have free reign to kind of fire away and do what he wants. We do also have a Gorbol going to be charging for that front line as well. A good anti-large armor piercing, and he does have a little bit better mass than he used to have. For the Lords and Heroes, we do have a Bray Shaman of Beast. He's going to be bringing just the transformation of Kadan. Usually you'll also be seeing Flock of Doom, because just the transformation of Kadan isn't going to use up all your winds of magic, so usually you do want to at least bring something else. For Morgor, the Shadowgave is going to be the Lord, though, and he is going to be bringing his own summons. He does have the Staff of Ruinous Corruption, giving a nice little Chaos Spawn, as well as the Spirit Essence of Chaos. So we're going to have a couple more Chaos Spawn come into the field once he does join that frontline engagement. But let's get things rolling, as both sides going to be advancing. Now the Flagellants, they do have 0 armor, but they do have a little bit of ability that can give them some 15% physical resist for a short period of time, but they should have no real worry with that, because the Ungor herds, they themselves don't really have all that too much in armor piercing, and they should be able to waste these Ungor herds very, very quickly. But we do have some units dropping back, as the Beastmen have tried to get into the Sunmaker very, very quickly, but the Empire Knights and the Spearmen have been quick to respond, though not quick enough as it is, as the Sunmaker does get collapsed upon. Now, the Sunmaker is an interesting choice in this matchup, just because the Beastmen have so many Vanguard options. It's very hard to keep it safe. It can do a lot of damage, but man, it is very risky to bring, and there's not a whole lot of expensive targets for it to hit anyways. And especially considering when all these units spawned in, they were already like halfway within its range. But that Cygor getting a little bit far front by the looks of things. Usually you're going to see that Cygor just kind of wait in the back, kind of firing away, at least initially, because there's plenty of good targets where you can be firing in as some Pistoliers. You even have a bunch of Empire Knights to really target in. But the Sunmaker, at least for now, has been saved. It has taken quite a bit of damage. It should be able to get back onto its artillery piece and start firing away as the Empire kind of had to retreat back into that little pocket there. We do have a transformation to Kadan going down, looking to finish the job, and it very well will, as the Sunmaker does finally rout, and with the mobility that the Beastmen have, they shouldn't have any problems really dealing with it, because they only have the Empire Knights to really kind of shut down the mobility here. However, this Celestial Wizard getting in a bad spot right now, as it is getting just beat down by this Gorbel, as Boris Todbringer does come in to try and save it, but man, that Celestial Wizard took a lot of damage so early on. Now, it isn't the greatest loss, though it is still very helpful to have that magic, even if it isn't exactly a game changer. Curse of the Night Wind and Wind Blast do have their uses after all. Otherwise, front line is going well for the Empire. Their Flagellants are going to be holding very well. Of course, they are unbreakable, and they should be beating down all of the front line of pretty much all of the infantry units of the Beastmen, as long as you don't get all of these summons from, like, yeah, this Chaos spawn, for example. It does look like we're going to be having a little soul fire coming down from that Warrior Priest, as he is kind of really just stuck in a bad spot right now, as all of his Flagellant support has left him, as he's now going to be forced with dueling Morgr and all these Chaos Spawn, and without any support coming his way, he is going to be dropping very quickly, and there, so far, Balance of Power definitely going to be favoring the Beastmen on this initial approach. However, that is, of course, inflated by the Chaos Spawn that are on the field, and Morgr does actually keep that Balance of Power very heavily in his favor in that late game, even if he doesn't have those spawns left anymore. Empire Knight's going to be dealing with some Ungor Spearman herd. However, they should be pulling out of that engagement right now. They don't want to be taking unnecessary anti-large damage. And that Warrior Priest, unfortunate for him. And I'm not really sure what the Celestial Wizard is thinking right now, trying to save his Warrior Priest or something, but he is going to rout with his Warrior Priest. And the second Feral Mana Core from that Transformation Kadan going to be finishing the job against that Celestial Wizard. So things looking pretty grim. Boris himself has taken quite a bit of damage, and all of the Flagellants now are on death's door. Only a handful of models left in total. So the Empire really going to have to rely heavily on what's left of their cavalry and their spearmen, and Boris is going to have to hope that he can hard carry a lot against a lot of these heroes, because we still have the Bray Shaman and the Gorbel. At least the Gorbel has taken quite a bit of damage himself from all of these Pistoliers, and at this point Boris really just needs to run away and wait for that Feral Mana Core summon to dissipate. He does not want to engage that, because that is essentially free damage then for the Beastmen, as they're just going to continue. They'll gladly take that engagement, and that Cygor is going to continue raining shots down, doing a ton of damage to these grouped up spearmen, and should be able to rout off at least probably another one. He has cut a ton of ammo, and the Empire need to have something close by to kind of shut it down, at least pressure it, so to stop it from firing so freely for the course of the battle. But right now, yeah, some of the mobility, though, for the Beastmen is starting to get broken down. Chaos Warhounds with Poison getting beaten down, same with those Senegors. So the mobility is in the advantage of the Empire here at this point. Their Pistoliers and their Empire Knights able to deal with what the Beastmen had brought. However, things still not looking so great for the Empire. Balance Power is pretty close to army losses by the looks of things, as Boris is going to try and do some damage to that Gorbel. Now, he is engaging without any infantry support, and that Gorbel is an anti-large specialist. So Boris is going to want to just be cycling in and out, trying to get some free damage, but I think the best bet against that Gorbel is allow those Pistoliers to fire in. Right now, the Pistoliers need to save their ammo for that Gorbel and this Cygor. Those are the two targets that they need to be shooting at. Boris should be able to beat Morgr fairly handedly if he is engaged by himself. So we shouldn't have to have anything to worry about that, especially now that the Bray Shaman is gone. He did use both of his summons, so really he was just a chariot at this point. No real, I guess, benefit other than his encourage that he gets. Celestial Wizard going to be dropping a Curse of the Midnight Wind down onto this little blob here, reducing the armor, and against the Gorbel, that armor reduction is actually fairly helpful. He'll be taking quite a bit of damage then from these Spearmen, and he's going to be routing, and he is so very close to shattering, but these Pistoliers, now that they've used all of their ammunition, should have no trouble in chasing that Gorbel off, and the balance power is now shifting in the, well, not quite in the favor of the Empire just yet, but it is going in that direction, as Boris has been able to deal with all of the heroes now, and he is engaged with Morgr, who has absolutely zero support at this point, so most of the balance power for the Beastmen is in Morgr and that Cygor, as there's very little left in terms of infantry and mobility. That we do have some Ungors off, kind of forgotten in the tree line there. And with the mobility that the Empire has left, these Ungor Raiders are not going to be able to get the value that they need, even though they have quite a bit of ammunition spread out between them. They are getting very exhausted and tired here as the rest of the Empire is slowly collapsing upon this Cygor's position. And if once that Cygor is kind of compromised, he's not going to be doing so well against the Spearmen. And as soon as Boris does finally finish off Morgar, which he has finally done, he shouldn't be too long before he turns his attention to that Cygor and slowly beats him down. So these Pistoliers should be able to escort Morgar off the battle. Boris shouldn't have to engage with him any longer, and the balance of power is now shifting into the Empire's favor. And surprisingly enough, the Celestial Wizard is still alive. Despite the misplays with him early on, he is still alive and functioning. And now the Cygor is going to be mucked up with melee with these Spearmen. Now they are anti-large, not really the best anti-large, but in comes the remaining mobility. We have the Pistoliers coming in with like another volley, maybe 2 left. And they should be able to put a little bit extra damage in before Boris does finally reach. And he has pretty much reached his heal cap now. He is doing quite well in terms of health, much better than he was earlier. So he should have no problem with dealing with this Cygor. I don't even know if he's going to get that opportunity as the balance of power continues to shift farther and farther away for that Beastman. Definitely running out of steam as the Spearmen will disengage and make sure that these Ungor herds do not get the assistance for that Cygor. And the rest of the mobility is just going to clean up shop. And army losses is going to be very close to triggering. A single charge or 2 from Boris should be enough to tip that balance into the favor of the Empire and cause the rest of the Beastmen army to rout. And the Empire definitely going to be coming back and taking it this day. And there is army losses. And the Empire, the forces of Sigmar, do prevail today. Take a little look at the after battle report. Definitely an interesting matchup here. We did see the Sunmaker. It did get 1300 in value, though it's still, I don't think this is a matchup that is a good choice for the Sunmaker in general. Just as I said earlier, the mobility and the Vanguard deployment that pretty much most, if not all, of a Beastman army can have is going to be very threatening for that, especially if you're only going to have a single spear in support. At least initially, though the Empire did do fairly well at holding them back long enough to at least get some decent value out of it. And it did clear out a ton of the chaff, particularly the Ungor Raiders as well, so they weren't really able to get a whole lot of value from them. But the Senegors and the Chaos Warhounds as well definitely needed to stay alive, especially in that late game, but were perhaps going maybe a little bit more heavily on the mobility department for the Beastmen, because the Empire Knights were able to effectively deal with all of those Senegors. Pistoliers as well are very good against them because of their 360 fire arc, and that Flagellant line, while they didn't really dish out all that much damage as you might expect, they did get quite a few kills against all of these Ungors, able to really make sure that they were able to keep them away, allow that Sunstorm to fire for as long as it possibly could. But there were still some misplays for the Empire. Definitely the Celestial Wizard was taking quite a bit of unnecessary damage early on, getting caught out by that Gorbel, as well as getting beaten down by those Feral Manticores as well. And that Warrior Priest, again as well, has lost the support of all of the Flagellants, and it didn't pull out quite nearly in time. Though Boris himself did quite well. He was able to deal with all of the heroes that were left for the Beastmen, able to punish that Gorbel as well as the Brayshaven and dual Morgar very, very effectively. Gorbel himself did quite well, getting 1900. Some good damage on the Celestial Wizard, and he is, of course, anti-large and armor-piercing. But otherwise, a very nice comeback for the Empire. Things were definitely looking a little hairy to start things off, but the problem is with the Beastmen is if they do not win outright very quickly, they will very much lose their momentum, and they will struggle quite a bit in the late game if they did not get a strong enough initial engagement. But that is going to be all I have for you today. I do hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good one.